millions of photographs of the Taj Mahal, but one of them stands out. There are lakhs of pictures of India Gate, but one is a cut above the rest. There are so many shots of the Banke Bihari temple in Vrindavan, but look at this one. Amit Pasricha is India's panoramic photographer. In fact, he's one of the foremost names in world panoramic photography. His photographs of India's people, places, monuments and sacred spots have shown the country like never before. And we're going to see his best photographs. You're watching Art Talk. I'm Jujhar Singh. Amit, thank you very much for joining us on Art Talk.
My pleasure.
How did you get that photograph of the Taj Mahal?
Jujhar, the world is photographed the Taj. And so, when I went there, I thought, what is it that I can do to make it different? And as luck would have it, I landed up on the other bank and I spent a few days there, and luckily there was a lovely time of the monsoons when the clouds were playing up and there was magic, and I managed to capture it.
The Taj Mahal is already so beautiful, but your photograph enhances it. Look at the early morning sun. Look at the reflection of the Taj in the waters of the Yamuna, and then the birds flying in the sky.
Well, the thing was, the birds were a bonus, they just happened to be in that space going off for their morning feeding or whatever. And so I was lucky enough to sort of get them, It's a lot about luck, at the end of the day, all this photography.
But tell me, Amit, what makes this photograph special?
Well, I looked at Raghu Rai's book and I saw he's got it from this angle and from every angle. But the thing is that when I look at the Taj, I look at it from a point of view of entirety. So what I managed to capture within that picture was the feeling of the Taj in its own setting, with the river flowing, with the birds, with the drama of the clouds. And I think that totality is what sort of made it a bit different than others I've seen before it.
Well, this photograph is part of The Monumental India book published in 2008. You took these breathtaking panoramic views of North India's monuments and sites. And I believe this book, by the way, was acclaimed as one of the top 10 coffee table books in the world in 2008.
Well, it pleased me immensely when I heard about that because it came out in London, and that was really nice because this book was co-editioned in the US, the UK, France, Germany, so it was all around the world, this book.
And I believe the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh used to gift it to visiting heads of state, including the French President Nicolas Sarkozy.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. And they asked for, I think, about 500 copies, and they sent it all across the world. And so it was lovely to have my book there in all these wonderful places.
Look at that photograph you took of India Gate. I mean, I've passed by it hundreds of times, but I've never seen it this way.
Well, to tell you a secret, at the end of the day, all these pictures have to be first constructed in your head. And so I've always stood around the India Gate and I thought, how do I get a vista view of this standing on the ground? I don't really see anything. So I got the Delhi government to loan me the fire brigade ladder, from which I could get an elevation as high as the India Gate and be able to see that entire perspective.
What's also interesting is that, like in the Taj Mahal photograph, you've actually co-opted the elements, the sky, the clouds, to add the drama to the photograph.
Well, the thing is, we have what's really one of the best capital complexes in the world, and we don't really recognize that. And so I don't think there's any photograph that does justice to it, because this long axis with the India Gate at one side and the Rashtrapati Bhavan at the other is actually ever been photographed.
And the lighting is amazing because you're getting this sort of, the sun is setting and the lights are going on. Yeah. It's creating a very nice hue over there.
Well, it is the magical hour, and again, lucky, but I think also dogged and sort of in the right atmosphere when the visibility is good and the crispness in the air. And so it's a lot of elements that come together to make that picture.
Amit, how did you do panoramic photography? How did you capture that wide sweep over there?
I adopted this technique because I felt that most pictures were boxed in. They sort of captured little elements. And so I stepped out of the box and wanted to sort of treat everything with reverence within their own surroundings. And it's born out of that, all these pictures.
But how do you actually construct a panoramic photograph?
The technique is very simple. You shoot part by part by part and stitch it all together in Photoshop, or there are several other softwares for this.
How many photographs do you need to take to be able to construct a panoramic picture? I mean, what is the sort of range or so?
Jujar, it could be just simply 2 or 3 pictures, but it could go up to 20 pictures, which is probably the longest I have shot. But technically, most of the images end up being around the 5 to 8 picture range, but that's perhaps where I stop.
Well, this is interesting because apparently the eyes capture 120 degrees vision, a little bit peripheral, maybe around that, but you are often capturing more than that. So you're actually getting more than the naked human eye can.
Well, you know, it's in the nature of an experience. So when, let's say, if Jujar goes to the Taj Mahal, what does he do? He goes, stands there, then he looks left, then he looks right, and the mental vision, the mental image, is a sum total of that entire left look, right look, center look. And so, you know, when I'm doing my photograph, it's from the point of view of what that experience creates an image in your mind. So I'm trying to build you that picture.
So you're getting the whole picture, as it were.
That's the point. That's exactly the point.
Amit, let's now look at your photograph of the 8th century Chausat Yogini temple in Madhya Pradesh. What's the significance of that?
What a beautiful experience to witness the sunrise at this temple, because the sun's rays sort of came caressing into all the yoginis and lit them up, so to speak, as I stood there and watched it and photographed it. And the thing is that the Chausat Yogini temple, and I came to know this later, was actually the inspiration for the Parliament House. And
really?
Well, it's the same kind of structure. It's got an inner core, it's got a outer center. So can you imagine a Parliament House built on a concept of a Chausat Yogini temple?
But actually, looking at the photograph, it looks very possible.
I think so. I believe so.
Now, you've also photographed a lot of forts and palaces. So you got this photograph, this majestic Jaisalmer fort in Rajasthan. You've also got this picture of the Darbar Hall at the Kila Mubarak complex in Patiala. And you see the silver coach or carriage that the Maharajas of Patiala used to use.
Well, the thing is that that's another find for me. S.K. Mishra, who was the head of Intact that time, was restoring the palace. And so he invited me. He said, go look at it. And I said, yes, this is a perfect opportunity. I'm doing my book. So I went there, and it was fabulous to walk around that palace and to hear about the instrument of accession having been signed there by, you know, the Maharaja, and that sort of one thing led to another. And can you imagine that was such an historical
the accession
place.
of the Patiala state to the Indian Union happened in that hall.
Can you imagine? And it's such a privilege to then be in that same place where such a thing that happened, you know, in history.
It was historical because Patiala, I believe, was the first Indian princely state to accede to India.
Well, yes, that's what history says.
Then there's the Shambhu Niwas, the current residence of the Maharana of Udaipur. And you've also got the Darbar Hall of the Jai Vilas Palace in Gwalior.
Well, you know, the Jai Vilas, which has got the largest chandeliers, the oscillus chandeliers in the world, has a very interesting story. In order to test whether the chandeliers would be supported by the roof, they built a huge ramp and they marched up elephants on top of the roof to test its strength. And so every time when I went there to photograph it, I kept looking at that ceiling and I could imagine the elephant standing and stomping on the top and testing out the strength of this roof.
Typical Maharaja thing, right?
Completely.
You know what's interesting about your panoramic photographs, Amit, is that you make your forts and your palaces and your places look incredible.
Well, in a large way, when we go there, this is what we should have experienced. But however, we've got the worry of, you know, are we on time, or the sun's too hot, or why is that smell bothering me? And so what my photograph tends to do is to sort of take away all that and to present what visually I should have found when I, as a tourist, went to that spot. And if I'm able to communicate that, then I feel good about it.
You then came out with a very incredible book in 2010, the Sacred India book. You captured the spiritualism, tradition and rituals of India, and I believe it won the German photo book prize as well.
Well, which was actually the Kodak Award, and in fact Kodak then handed it over to the publishers in Europe, and it became the German Photo Book Award. And I think that's
a very prestigious award.
That's an incredible award for the book to get.
You have a photograph of holy celebrations at the famous Banke Bihari temple in Vrindavan. This is a fantastic photograph.
Well, when I went there,
it's my favorite Amit Pasricha photograph, by the way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it is one of my favorites as well. And when I went there, it was pouring cats and dogs outside. So I think this became a little cocoon for the people who were running away from the rain, and I didn't want to leave that place. But as I stood there and I saw this motion of hands as they lifted and they swayed and they sprinkled color into the air, it was almost like the hands themselves had a life. They were organic. They were sort of different from the people that held that, were the arms and the bodies to those hands. And I thought, this little body within this larger temple makes such an interesting story. And so I set about capturing that.
Describe the scene. What's happening? Because this is perhaps the most famous Krishna temple in Vrindavan.
Well, it's amazing, I mean, normally people run away when confronted with a pichkari on a holy day. But here, there are people standing over there while these pandits dip their pichkaris into color and spray them. And as they get sprayed, they feel blessed. So people are standing there wanting to be showered by the colors of God, so to speak. So it's quite an incredible experience. I think there's a bit of mischief. There's sort of, obviously there's much song and dance in the air. So it's really quite hypnotic.
And intermittently they draw the curtains so that the darshan of the Lord can take place as well.
That's right. So people have to wait for quite a while before they get darshan.
What I find interesting about this photograph is also how you've got the immense bhakti of the people over there. You've got this incredible collective energy. You've got the multiple expressions of individuals over there. Of course, the colors flying everywhere.
Well, it was an incredible moment, and I think
it is the whole devotional energy that you can see over there.
That is correct. That is correct. There was something special about that moment.
Amit, how are great photographs taken?
Well, the thing is that they're not taken, they're made in your head first. So if you make them in your head first, then, that's my philosophy, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of photographers who will disagree with that.
When you say make it in your head, you mean what? The composition, the soul, the energy of the photograph? What exactly are you making in your head first?
Well, the thing is that all photography is born with a spirit. So it's not quintessentially just a visual, medium. It is sort of imbibing a sense of what you want to communicate. So your heart, your emotions, your soul, and the soul of the place are sort of corresponding with the soul of the place, and that is what's reflecting in your pictures. It might sound a little complicated, but once you get the sense of being one with that place, it sort of makes it quite easy to be able to capture it.
And how do you try and do that? You research your subjects, your photographs first, you go there, soak in the environment. What exactly do you do?
Well, you're right, you have to do a bit of that. And apart from that, you have to stop treating photography as something that you do. Photography is just capturing what you experience. So first you experience and then you capture, because if you haven't experienced, then what are you trying to capture then?
Let's look at this other incredible photograph of yours. You've got sadhus visiting the Vishwanath temple in Khajuraho. Now this is a time-lapse photograph. So the group of sadhus sitting down on the right-hand side of the photographs are the ones who eventually get up and start walking around, exploring the temple. But this is a great composition.
Well, thank you, and thank you for observing that they're the same set of sadhus. A lot of people don't manage to get that. So there were only, I think, about 5 sadhus who sat there, and I sort of quietly stood in my corner and waited for them. And then they decided to do darshan, and they walked inside. So I got that, and it became a story, because of the photograph was the story of the sadhus who came in and then did darshan and went away.
Amit, let's see a few interesting photographs that you've got in your Sacred India book. One is of this Nihang Sikh in Anandpur Sahib in Punjab. Now, I know that Nihangs wear very big turbans, but this is ginormous.
Well, it's a very big one, but let me tell you, it's not the biggest. But this one, because I sat in the tent with this gentleman, took 4 hours for him to tie. And
and you sat with him during that time?
I patiently sat through it. And so I came out, and then about 5-10 minutes later, he stepped out. And then everyone was looking at him, including the horse. So,
so you got that in the photograph.
I decided to make a picture of that.
I believe that many of the turbans at the Nihang 6 tie are as long as 40 meters long.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's a good thing for a cloth shop to have a Nihang walk-in, surely.
Then you got the photograph of the dervishes in a dargah in Hyderabad. What are they doing over there?
Well, they're doing a body piercing, and so I was told that this is a traveling group, and they're going to be there at this dargah, which is a very small dargah, not very much known because there's a urs there, and so I happened to go there, and it was a powerful experience to sort of see them do this.
And then, Amit, you have this hillside mosque in Ajmer. So you can see this little mosque, a few people, and I think there's some graves over there. And this is in the backdrop of virtually the whole of Ajmer town. You have the micro, you have the macro over there.
You know, the thing is, when you go to the Urds in Ajmer, then you're confronted by a sea of people. So, as luck will have it, after spending 3 days with a sea of people, you want to break away a little bit. So, I decided to go up the hill. And that's when I saw that, you know, the sea of people seen from a distance looks rather interesting. So I got some, you know, foreground activity which was happening on this walk up, but with this entire beauty of Ajmer laid out below me, which was fantastic.
And then you got Muharram in Srinagar. But where are the men over here, Amit?
Well, the thing was that the women and the men in a procession, they don't go in a procession together. So the women escort the men to the edge of the village, and then the men go off in procession, and all the women come trooping back home. So I photographed that, but then I found this much more interesting because all the women were trooping back into their houses. So that became my Muharram procession for me.
Let's look at another photograph. A wealthy lawyer's wife doing Ganesh Puja in a home outside Delhi.
Now, don't forget the limousine standing behind her. Well, obviously, you know, I mean, you can see the size of the limousine and the house and the Ganesh itself, but it was quite startling for me to sort of walk into the house for some other purpose and to find this happening, and I sort of requested if I could photograph this, and they were very happy. And I thought it made a really nice, you know, comment on modern society, how we continue with our traditions.
In contrast to the wealthy woman doing Ganesh Puja, you then have a Ganesh Chaturthi procession going to the red light area of Mumbai.
Yes, I know Kamatipura, and because I thought instead of doing Chowpatty and one of the regular streets, it would be interesting to sort of come into one of the smaller streets. So I decided to go there, and unfortunately the eunuchs procession happened right after this. It was too dark for me to really capture that, but I thought this was really nice too, with all the people standing on rooftops watching them, you know, the procession right in the middle.
Amit, your next book, which is almost in press right now, India at Home, is about capturing people in their domestic spaces. Now, I've seen some of the photographs, you've been kind enough. So, you know, one of them is amazing. You have this couple and this wonderful play of light over there.
Well, you know, the thing is that I went to Pondicherry. So I walked into this Tamil quarter house, and just then the lights went, and so this entire effect of the colors played up on these people inside.
The sunlight coming through the colored windows.
Well, yeah, the reflection of the sunlight coming in, and I thought, you know, after your eyes adjust to it, it kind of looked interesting. And of course, then I picked out that the woman was, you know, really the dominant force in that house. And of course, when you look at the picture, then you obviously also recognize that the man's feeling a bit blue.
You also then have this very nice photograph, this couple, and they've got these steel burtons behind them. Now, very clearly, the burtons don't only have utility value, but also decorative value in their home.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? You know, the sensibilities of our villages, this is just incredible. You not only had all the burtons on the wall, but you had little black spots where the burtons had been, you know, and were no longer part of the thing.
But tell me, Amit, what is it that excites you about panoramic photography?
Well, the thing is that as, let's say, the audience has several times said in an exhibition to me, they said, you've transported us to the spot. And if I was to sort of explain that, then because I've photographed something that's all around you, you have become the center of the picture. So when you stand in front of the picture, you are part of the picture because you're seeing everything around you. So you feel like transported to the spot. that's practically what it is.
So a viewer cannot look at your photographs as an outsider. He's almost sucked into the photograph. He's part of the panorama.
Oh, absolutely. He's a part of it.
You've also got this photograph of this woman and her son studying in a hut over there. And this is why you need panoramic photographs, because you can see in that one picture the entirety of their home space and their material possessions or the lack thereof.
Exactly. I mean, you can see this really nicely dressed up traditional woman and this, school-going boy, and how all her, all her hopes are sort of resting on his future, and it's quite poignant. It's difficult to explain.
Look at the look on her face.
It's wonderful.
Let's look at one more photograph from this. You've got the Sarabhai family home in Ahmedabad.
Right, and as you can see in the picture, theirs is a very simple life. I mean, there's a beautiful pitch white painting at the back, but otherwise it's a very downplayed home. And it's a nice family to photograph, with Vikram Sarabhai, of course, on the wall in the form of a photograph.
Well, Amit, we've talked about your soon-to-be-released book, but you're also working on several future projects. Let's take a break. We'll talk about that afterward, especially a project of Amit's called India Unknown. That's a tentative title. It's about incredible places in India you and I have never seen before. We'll be right back.
And the winner is Jujhar Singh from NewsX.
Welcome back. You're watching Our Talk with me, Jujhar Singh. We're with top panoramic photographer Amit Pasricha. Amit, you've done about 15 books in which your photographs have featured. One of your future projects is tentatively titled India Unknown. What's that going to be about?
When I was doing the Monumental India book, then in the foreword, William Dalrymple wrote that most of these monuments may not stand the test of time like the pictures in the book will. And I thought to myself, that may not be so true, because they are the A-grade monuments. And so I decided that I owe it to myself to go and actually discover the unknown side of this country. I mean, there are monuments that are unprotected. There are monuments that are under state archaeological departments, which are, have no real
Monuments
expertise.
like?
Yeah, so there's Khusro Bagh in Allahabad, which is a protected monument, but there are several step wells all over the country. In fact, every second village will have a step well, which is just lying there and nobody knows. In some cases, there's not even names to these various monuments. And so I want to make this a document of everything that we have in this country, because it's all going to disappear.
What's another example of a beautiful monument or place that you've seen, which is going to be in the book?
Another one is this beautiful temple that stands in a lotus pond in close to Udaipur, and it's just lying there.
Nobody's going there.
Nobody's going there.
Amit, what else are you working on?
Well, Jujhar, there are always several projects, many years in the making. So a long-term project has been, a project just loosely titled India-wide. And I mean, I'll tell you about one of the pictures. I was in Baroda, and I walked into this beauty parlor, and for the shock of me, I saw this boy. I mean, he's a young man about to get his chest waxed. And I saw photographed that scene of the beauty parlor, and it was the Champion Beauty Parlor, if I'm not mistaken. And
the irony of that.
I wouldn't tell you about his screams when all that hair came off, but it's a quirky, interesting bits of Indian life that I'm capturing for this book.
Amazing. Amit, you come from a family of photographers. Your grandfather, Fateh Chand Pasricha, was a portrait photographer. Your father, Avinash Pasricha, is well known particularly for his photographs of the performing artists. You're a panoramic photographer. What are you trying to achieve with your photographs?
Jujhar, the idea is that if I am managed to leave some documents behind which capture an essence of our times, then I think I've kind of achieved my purpose. I mean, I find it to be so exciting to live in India at this point in time when the change is so apparent and so rapid and so in front of you. And I have the privilege in my profession to be able to document it. There's nothing better than this. And I'm blessed.
Well, Amit, your photographs are fantastic. I love them. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us on our talk.
Thank you for coming.